It has been 1,287 days since Colin Kaepernick played a snap in the NFL, but today, that changes. So EA Sports just dropped a brand new update to put Colin Kaepernick back in Madden. So he's an 80 overall. You can catch him in free agency if you're in franchise mode, or if you're in play now, you can sort of add him to a roster and then use him on a team there. But again, he's now in free agency. He's 6'4", 230, 32 years of age, 6 years of pro, again an 80 overall. If we want to take a look at his stats really quickly, 89 throw power, deep accuracy is really good at 81 still, medium solid, short's great. Throwing the run is super high, play action, throwing to pressure, and break sack are all stupid high. So I think that's going to make him a good player to pick up. Speed and acceleration are still very high too. At an 84 and 87 acceleration with an 88 agility, it's going to be great. Hearing could use some work, but again, I still think he's going to be just fine. 82 change of direction, 79 juke move, 86 entry, 77 stamina, which I mean, makes sense. He's been out of the league for a couple of years now. Stamina can't be super high, and 84 toughness. I'm here for it. Let's see what he can do for his entire career. We're going to see what he can do after 1 year, and then a couple years after that. And so for the purpose of this experiment, Colin Kaepernick will be the starter. Garoppolo will be his backup. And we're going to see what he can do with his own team in their current form. You get to the playoffs, can win a Super Bowl in 3 years. Well, it's going to be a tough one, but let's see what Colin can do. To win Colin Kaepernick's first season back in the NFL, he throws for 4,000 yards, which ends up being 8th best in the league this season. He has 37 touchdowns and 9 interceptions, only gets sacked 34 times, with a pass going as long as 93 yards. If I'm Colin, I'm pretty happy with that. On the ground, Raheem Mostert ends up going for 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. Coleman has almost 500, and Colin didn't run a ton. He had no rushing touchdowns, but he had 250 plus yards there with no turnovers. Again, solid. His leading receiver was Dante Pettis with almost 1,000 yards. George Kittle is just behind him by 2 yards with, again, nearly 1,000. His leading catch guy, though, is Kendrick Bourne with 99 grabs and 800 some yards. I mean, he was spreading the ball around pretty evenly to all of his guys this year. From an MVP standpoint, Colin obviously doesn't win that one. I think his stuff was a little lower than what it probably could have been to win that award, but Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Tom Brady finished 1, 2, and 3. Colin Kaepernick finishes number 4 in that spot. It's a good year if you ask me. In the NFC, he finishes 2nd for the Offensive Player of the Year. Then for Best Quarterback, he gets 3rd behind both Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Again, you can't be but so mad at that. The big test, though, is to see if they can actually go ahead and win a playoff game and then make a way to the Super Bowl. See what they can do against Seattle. So against Seattle, again, a divisional rival, they end up winning by 10 points there. Let's see how Cap actually did. 231 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Russell Wilson had more yards, less touchdowns, and more interceptions. So Colin obviously won because, well, they got the W at the end of the day. Then on the ground game, Carson had 71, Mostert had 67, and then Colin only ran twice for 5 yards, but again, his team got the job done. Up next is an equally tough test. They had the 10-6 New Orleans Saints, a team that is loaded with firepower left and right, both offensively, defensively. They're going to be tough. But Colin led his team to be 12-3-1 this year. Can they go past the divisional round into the NFC Conference Championship? Let's find out. Unfortunately for Kaepernick and the 49ers, they cannot win in the divisional round. They lose to the Saints 38-29. To see how Colin actually did, see Drew Brees throw for 4 touchdowns, had 1 interception. Colin goes 2 touchdowns, no picks again. He's not turning the ball over. Did get sacked twice, but had 250 plus yards. Then on the ground, Kamara has 76, Mostert has 68 with a touchdown. Davis Murray even scored, and then Colin had 9 yards on 2 attempts. So he's not running a ton, but he still had a very good game. He just came up short. Heading into year number 2, Colin has went down a little bit, so he's now at 77 overall, but his development trade went from normal to a star, so there's, I guess, regression, but also progression at some point. So again, most of his range of stayed most of the same. His deep accuracy, I believe, went up, or actually went down a little bit. His short accuracy went down about 4 points. Medium stayed about the same. His speed is still the same. His acceleration went down a little bit. Carrying's still there. So we're going to see what happens the second year, Colin being back in the NFL. But again, he's now 33. He's just catching up to him. In his second year back, Colin throws for even more yards than in his first year back. 4,400 yards, less touchdowns at 33, with 7 interceptions. So again, he's staying in that same ballpark. The running game, Mostert was pretty similar to last year, 7 touchdowns, so a little bit less, roughly 1,000 yards. This guy Godwin comes in as the rookie. See, Colin actually get 2 rushing touchdowns this time, along with 230 yards, so pretty comparable to what he had in that first year. But this time from a receiving game, he had 2 guys go over 1,000 yards. One in Dante Pettis, the second one being Deebo Samuel. But Samuel had a much more productive year, 11 touchdowns through the air for him. George Kittle had 5 touchdowns on 900 yards. See Brandon Ayuk go for 780 yards and 7 touchdowns. Already messed up his last name, but it is what it is. Colin finishes roughly where he finished the previous year in the MVP. We see Josh Allen win it. Interesting. With Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, and then Colin again being number 4 in MVP voting. But from an Offensive Player of the Year award, Colin Kaepernick takes that home. First time since he's come back. Happy to see that. And from a best QB standpoint, he goes a little behind what he was last year. We see Rodgers, Breeze, Ryan, Foles. Nick Foles beat him out. We're just going to ignore that. And then Colin Kaepernick at number 5. With Tom Brady still playing in the league, but the Buccaneers didn't have a good season. So at 13-3, they get into the divisional round against the Arizona Cardinals, who were 9-7 and essentially snuck into the playoffs. Can they beat them? Let's find out. So the 49ers end up taking a 28-14 victory here against Arizona. See, Garoppolo actually comes in and throws 1 touchdown. I'm assuming on probably like a fake field goal or something. Kaepernick throws 3 touchdowns of his own with 1 turnover. Gets sacked 1 time. Kyler Murray has a not so great game. On the ground, Mostert had 52. We see Colin literally running once for 4 yards. Again, this dude has not been running. I get it, he's a little bit older now. He's got to protect himself. So with Colin and the 49ers getting past the divisional round, unlike last season, now it's time to see if they can take down Carolina, a very talented team at 11-5. So the game against Carolina was a little bit more close than what we saw the previous time, but they end up getting an 8-point victory here against them. Colin throws for 2 touchdowns, had 1 sack, but threw for 362 yards, while Teddy B still had a really good game. He only had 1 touchdown and 1 pick, but still threw for a lot of yards. McCaffrey only goes for 62 yards. Mostert goes for 49 and a touchdown. You see, can't pronounce his last name, goes for 1 touchdown here. And then Colin again, 1 attempt, 3 yards. So Colin Kaepernick and the 49ers have gotten all the way to the Super Bowl against the Cleveland Browns. I don't think anybody really thinks the Browns will be the team making it there, but hey, Cleveland fans, you got something, right? The Super Bowl is over. Kaepernick and the 49ers have beat the Cleveland Browns in what is the weirdest Super Bowl probably of all time. I don't think anybody expected Kaepernick to be coming out into an NFL team. I don't think anyone expected the Browns to ever be close to a Super Bowl. But a team, his old team, gave him a shot again, and he led them to the big game. You gotta love it. And your MVP of the Super Bowl ends up being Colin Kaepernick, who throws for nearly 400 yards, has 3 touchdowns, not a single turnover. You gotta love it. Colin did the unthinkable. After getting blackballed by the NFL for so long, they finally let him come back to his former team, and he leads them to a Super Bowl championship where he was so close before. He finally gets the job done. And now, Colin and his teammates can hoist that Lombardi trophy, and they can be proud because they got the job done. And you know what? I'm just happy to see Colin back in the NFL game. Whether an NFL team ever gives him an opportunity again or not, at least EA Sports had some courage to give him an opportunity to come back into a game. Because honestly, all we deserve is to have an opportunity to play with him in Madden, at least that.